Hi, I'm Kate Gleim with KatieDidDesign.com, and today I'd like to share with you how to decorate a wheat sheath. The method we're going to be using is a very basic one that can be used on all kinds of decorations, and it begins with a bow. So to start with, we're going to take and just wrap a piece of ribbon right around the sheath to cover up the wire that's holding it together. Now these kind of sheaths you can buy pre-made, or you can watch our video on how to create this sheath yourself. I've wired this bow so that it's easy to glue on, so we're going to cut that short and put a little bit of our pan glue on here and then stick this in place right on top of the ribbon. And what the bow does, besides adding texture and color, is that it also allows us to have a mechanic to glue our materials into. So as we put the materials in, the loops and things are going to hold them in place. If you can't tie a bow, you can just do something like this. It's a series of little pieces of ribbon just bound together with a wire in the middle, and use that instead of the bow. So to begin with, we're going to use a little bit of ivy here for some length. I call these my cleanup designs because you can literally rather just pick things up that you've saved from other designs you've done, or leaves that have fallen off that you collect. All those little odds and ends were really great for doing these designs. So I'm just gluing these pieces into the bow. You want to consider the bow to be your axis or axle, like in a wheel. This is the axle and these are all the spokes. So everything should radiate out from the center of your bow right there. So we'll now put a little piece of this in the center, and I'm using what's called pan glue because it's easy to work with. You just dip your material in there and kind of stick it in place. You do have to have a little bit of patience and sometimes hold those so they stay in position. And it depends on how hot it is, how fast this glue will dry. So I'm also going to put these large leaves in the background. And they're just going to give us some nice texture underneath here and some good heavy form for the other materials to be placed against. So I've picked a little bit of orange garland that I've cut into some small pieces, and again, working from this central point in the bow, we're bringing those materials out. I like how the twigs on these give you some nice texture, and kind of it's a light airy effect that sort of wings off from the design. As you can see, I've chosen a number of different foliages here to add to this, but they're all in that kind of yellow-green color so that they work well together. Green's Mother Nature's neutral, so it's always the perfect background for working with flowers. And so we're just simply dipping and sticking these materials in place. I love to use cinnamon because of the fragrance, and cinnamon's a bark, so once it sits out for a while, the fragrance is sealed in the bark and you don't smell it anymore. So to release that fragrance, you want to just break it, or you can even just scrape it with a knife and that'll open up that fragrance again. I'm going to take this leaf off right here that's kind of upside down in our design. That back in like so, and a couple more cinnamon sticks, and again you can see how this radiates from the center point of the design, a little bit like a star shape. Hydrangea is a wonderful material for adding to designs because it has all these little flowers, it's very fluffy, and it kind of fills in very well. Again, you can use a glue gun to do this as well. It's just that every time you need to use your glue, you have to pick the glue gun up, and this is much easier to work with. And you can watch our video on the different types of glue if you haven't seen or heard about pan glue to get an idea about it, because it really is fabulous. If you're going to be doing much in the way of artificial flowers, you definitely want to have a glue pen. And then lastly, we're going to fill in the center with some wonderful dried pods that we have. I found this wonderful new potpourri line. It's called Madison Gardens, and it's filled with all these wonderful different pods and nuts and materials that are already fragranced because it's potpourri, so when you add these to the design, you add wonderful fragrance to it as well. This is a dried quince, and we'll put these in the background here. Kind of gives a nice solid form for your materials to work against. And then we can add a few of these pods from the potpourri. And it's starting to fill in nicely in the center, so we're getting all the weight right here in the middle of the design so that the eye is drawn into the center of the arrangement. You can make these designs as large or small as you want to. You just want to work a little bit with the proportion of the wheat sheath and not get them so large that they overwhelm the design. And lastly, I thought this would be kind of fun to add just a bit of this little wispy grass in here. Kind of adds that light texture to the design. And then lastly, we need to come through and remove all of our little glue strings that are attached to us here. And that design is ready to go. Thank you so much for joining us.